All right, we're back out on the trails. Easy shoe choice for my comeback here. Talk about that and the reason why. North Face Altamesa 300 V2. I've been walking around in this shoe a lot the past week or so. Fair amount of casual use, even a little bit of run walking, bit of hiking as well. Just overall trying to get a good feel for them before I get running again. I did my first, official back to running session yesterday in them. Took a little spin out on some small trails in the neighborhood right behind my house essentially. A few segments on and off of running and hiking a little bit, trying to avoid some of the steeper spots. And 300 V2, I could tell right away this is going to be a really great daily training option, I would say, for most runners. There are a few obvious elements with the 300 V2 that for me squarely place it in that daily trail trainer segment. But before I dig into those details, quick review of the specs here. If you haven't already, check out my spring 2026 video where I take a look at some new shoes that I have in for test. 300 V2 was featured in that video. Went over the specs, also a little bit of a compare and contrast with the 500 V2. So check that one out, but I'll just briefly go through the specs here again. 9.8 ounces here, 272 grams in my US 10 EU 44, same sizing as I have in all of the North Face shoes you have seen on the channel. Measured stack is 38 at the heel, 32 under the forefoot with a 6 mil drop. Let's start off right away with the midsole here. North Face calls it a super light EVA. Now this is a departure from most of their trail models. Dream foam nitro TPU in the majority of them. This one different as far as recent models. It's the only one I can think of with this EVA. Super light, as they call it. Its bigger brother, the 500 V2, is a departure from other North Face trail models in that it does not have a plate in the mix. Neither does this one here, but the 500 V2 does still have that nitro TPU Dream foam. By my feel here, the difference is that you've got something a little bit softer underfoot without having to go super max stack. Again, some of these other North Face shoes, 500 of course, also the Pro 3 and also the Enduris 4, they have that nitro TPU. Doesn't feel quite as soft, but they give you a bit of extra stack there, so you have a deep level of cushioning there. With the 300 V2 here, you're a little lower in stack, a little closer to the ground, but you have, I would say, a softer kind of feel, especially since you have no plate in the mix here. Another factor with the absence of the plate is the lack of that distinct vective rocker feel underfoot. I notice more of a neutral feel and platform underfoot. Again, you don't have that plate holding the kind of rounded shape of the platform under your foot, especially up front by the toes. Don't have that so much here with the 300 V2. Also with the foam being a little bit softer, I feel like it makes it easier to kind of flatten out and have a more neutral feel in the front of the shoe, especially up front by the toes where previous North Face shoes kind of curl up or kind of ramp up into that rocker up front by the toes. This one, much flatter, don't want to say flat, but more like a normal feel, especially at the front of the toe box there, underneath the toes. Speaking of toes, that leads me into my next important, crucial aspect as far as, at least for me, daily training out on the trails, and that's comfort, and specifically comfort in the toe box. While it can be effective and efficient and in a lot of cases faster to have that big rocker up front by the toes, when I'm out there training, I feel like I want to just set it and forget it with a trail shoe. I don't want to be out there, even in a short or mid-distance run, feeling like my toes are all jammed up together. With the 300 V2, toe box here is really nice, very wide, very spaced out, almost ultra, and probably very close to topo level here. It's very close and similar to what you have in the 500 V2, and that's a shoe that I've been recommending to runners that have been asking for, say, a wider fit in a more traditional brand. Again, not those ultras or topos. That space in the toe box is especially important once you get into the realm of those really long ultra distances, multi-day stuff. You saw shoes that dominated out at Cocodona. Think Norda 055, of course. Mount to Coast was everywhere. Those are shoes, both of them, with high volume fits in the front of the shoe. And with the 500 V2 and now the 300 V2, that's a similar aspect that you have. I mean, dare I say it, I can feel even a bit of toe splay here in the 300 V2. And that's a little bit different than the 500 V2. 500 V2, again, Nitro TPU, has that big toe sweep, the bigger toe rocker up front that you don't have in the 300 V2. So while it's very roomy, very accommodating, your toes are not squeezed together at all in the 500. Let me get that straight. But with the 300, without that big sweep up front, I feel like my toes are even more easily spreading out in this shoe. As I get into my toe off here, the front of the shoe stays more connected to the ground as opposed to just rolling along with that 500. And then with the space up there, my toes really spread out. I can almost feel it even without wearing toe socks here. This is certainly a model where you can go toe socks, certainly Injinji Run Lightweight Crew easily. That might even be a little too thin for these. I think you can go full Injinji midweight here, or even a Creepers toe sock and be totally comfortable. Again, I'm US 10 here, EU 44. I typically go a half size up in the North Face. I have just liked the feel of that half size up in North Face shoes of the past. And also, I say in general with those kind of rocker shoes, they always typically go a US 10, EU 44 for trail shoes. A lot of higher stack models, similar setup, got that rocker up front, kind of squeezes the toes a little bit. So same sizing here, but the Altamesas, both 500 and 300, do feel a little bit different. 500 again, still has that rocker, still has that roll, but very wide. 300, this is perhaps a North Face shoe I would consider going true to size, US 9.5, I guess EU 43.5 here with this model, just because of the flatter nature, the flatter feel up front by the toes. Got a full thumbs width here in my US 10, and in the absence of having the rocker like previous North Face models, I feel like I could go a little bit snugger with the 9.5 here. But again, I was just talking about toe splay. I like the feel of it. I don't think I would want to have, maybe, you know, if I could have two pairs or something like this and it was my do-it-all kind of trail shoe, which it may be for some of you out there, may end up being that quiver of one as far as daily training. Then maybe I would want to have a second pair in a 9.5, go to a little bit tighter sock, a little snugger fit, and then I could probably take it a little bit more technical trails. But I have a little bit more space, a little bit more comfort here in the US 10, and yeah, that toe feel, that roominess in the toe box feels great. Coming back to that commenter's question on the fit comparison between the 500 and this 300, that commenter mentioned that there was perhaps a little bit more upper material in this 300, perhaps a little closer together on the lace throat here, excessive lace length. I don't think that's too much of an issue. Maybe it is a little bit more material here, but I would say it's marginal. The laces are a little bit on the long side, but you can see this is a wide enough lace throat. It's nowhere near being pinched together and causing me any problems, especially with a half size up here. I don't look at this being overly wide or loose at all. Again, half size up and full thumbs width here. I could easily go a 9.5 here, but as I roll into my toe off here, I just feel my toes like spreading here, and it feels good, like topo-ish, ultra-ish in a North Face package here. So I know that may be very appealing to a lot of runners out there. You could kind of see there's a bit of excess material on the sides here. This shoe is going to work very well for high volume feet. If you have a narrow foot yeah, this upper may pinch closer together, may not be the fit for narrower type of feet. They have these kind of gillies here, I don't know what you call it, in the middle, these yellow ones, and talked about a little bit of excess material here. Those yellow gillies are connected to kind of like straps on the middle, similar to the Norda 005 in fact, and I could feel those kind of wrapping around my foot, not in a bad way, in a way that feels better than having this looseness of material, and depending on, you know, the entire upper material wrapping my foot there, you have those inner straps to kind of hold it a little bit better than perhaps it may look with this upper material here. Midsole here, very soft feeling. Again, they're calling it super light EVA. Talk about the ride once I head out of this close-up here, but it feels very absorptive underfoot, very soft and cushy. Let's see how it feels on the way back. Again, got these things here, probably gonna cut these guys off. I don't know, I don't really hold my shoes like this. Comfort all around here. Ankle, collar height is very good. Again, half size up here. Well padded around here, pretty normal, pretty standard. Heel collar is not overly stiff. I could feel it even with my foot in there. Decent volume, lace to the first eyelet, no heel slippage at all with the flexibility of the shoe. Pop one off here so you can get a closer look. Get a feel for that cushion there. Very soft. Check the flexibility, very flexy. Again, there is no plate in this shoe, so if you like kind of soft, mid-range cushion and flexibility in your daily training shoe, 300 V2, very nice pick here. Ground platform, pretty wide, close in fact to the 500 V2. Again, check out my earlier video, I had them up on the screen. I will put the exact ground platforms up on the screen, but very nice and solid under here without being, say, excessive. If you look at the width of the upper here, there's not as much flare out as you have with the 500 V2. Flares out a little bit to give you a little bit more platform on the ground compared to where your foot is on top of the shoe, but not as much as the 500 V2. 500 V2 really kind of like flares out a little bit more, stabilizing that higher stack. Take a quick look inside here. Maybe able to see those yellow straps in there on the side. You do have a supercritical type seemingly insole here. Yeah, this is definitely some type of supercritical foam. Very nice Strobel board inside for some structure and not feeling overly thin with that EVA. You do have a liner set up inside this shoe. The tongue is attached on both sides here. It's not just a gusset, it is attached to a full inner toe liner, so you've got this outer lighter blue-gray material, and within that you have like a darker material that lines the inside of the toe box. That may feel a little bit warm to some runners, although there is quite large ventilation areas in the front of the toe box here. This one especially is quite breathable. Along the sides here, between, there are some overlays. This 1, 2, 3, even with the logo here, there's a little bit of a web on top of those inner yellow kind of straps on the inside to kind of hold the foot decently well, but that does limit the kind of ventilation areas. So between those straps for the overlays in that outer upper material, you do have some ventilation zones there. They are pretty minimal. This is a somewhat light colored shoe. I haven't noticed any breathability issues myself with this, but again, my feet do not run hot as other runners do, so it's typically not an issue for me. It's not completely closed off, so I would say it's pretty average in terms of ventilation. Quick look at the heel counter there. Kind of light stiffness there, not overly stiff on the side here. It's really, there's nothing hard anywhere inside this heel, on the bottom around the heel cup, around the heel bone, and as far as around the padding around the upper ankle and Achilles. Very comfort oriented here. No issues anywhere with irritation. The tongue is quite nice. Quick look here. Solid tongue height as well. They did not skimp on that, so they were able to bring the tongue height up here without having to make it excessively padded. North Face has trimmed a lot of weight in their recent trail models, and tongue design has been a part of that. They went away from kind of that poofy design. I think the Enduris 4 does have quite a bit of a thicker tongue, but a lot of the recent models have this kind of setup, which is perfectly fine for me. This kind of mesh here gives it decent enough padding without being overly thick. And as long as the height is there, I'm okay with that. Full disclosure here, this is more of a first impressions review here. I don't want to get hung up in trying to pile up a lot of mileage into some of the shoes that I do start testing as I come back from my injury here. Just not going to have an excessive amount of miles to pile into these shoes, at least not right away. That being said, I do have all of the North Face recent trail models in for test, so I have a very good feel for them. So in the absence of logging a ton of miles in this shoe, at least for now, I do have quite a bit of experience with all those North Face shoes that I've been talking about throughout here. Have a good feel for each and every one of them, so I believe this should be helpful for many of you out there. Coming back to the feel on the run here, midsole stack at 38-32, 6 mil drop feels 100% accurate here. Very comfortable on that run with that super light EVA. It has a soft and absorptive feel underfoot. Not quite as bouncy, not quite as energetic as Dream Foam Nitro TPU. Again, a lot of North Face shoes also have plates in the mix, so that's going to bring a different ride element there. Just feels overall very comfortable underfoot. No interference. I don't feel like I have to land in any particular area to, say, utilize a Vective rocker to the maximum efficiency. A lot of those feel like they want to be centered under the middle of the foot to utilize that Vective rocker. Here with the 300, no plate, feels equally comfortable landing a little bit forward on the ball of the foot, in the middle if that's where you like it, or even heel striking, 6 mil drop, comfortable across the board. While the feel of this EVA here is not quite as responsive as that Nitro TPU and other North Face models, again, a lot of those having a plate in the mix of some shape or form, it does feel quite a bit energetic here compared to other, say, EVA models. I think of one primarily that I've recently run in, the Mizuno Neo Acera. That has a very soft feel underfoot, almost like you're sinking into that midsole. I think I did describe it actually as that sink-in type of cushion. I don't really feel that here. 38, 32 here is quite a healthy amount of stack. Not quite max, but still up there. But I do feel a little bit of energy to it. It is one of the nicer, I would say, EVAs that I've run in recently. It doesn't feel as soft as that Mizuno shoe. A little more stable, being that it doesn't feel that soft. And again, it feels a little bit peppy, I would say, for this stack and, you know, quote unquote regular, although they are calling it quote unquote ultralight here. So where does that stack line up against the other North Face models? Of course, the 500 V2. That's pretty much max stack. I've got that one at 41.35. Check out my review on that one. More of that max stack feel, less of that softness underfoot, I would say. This one feels a little bit softer, while that one has decent softness to it, but smooth roll, smooth energy, a lot of that rocker up front. Again, maybe verging on the same effective level of cushion given the couple of extra millimeters of stack underfoot. 3 mil there with that shoe. Another shoe that I like for training from the North Face, Infinite 3, 9.9 ounces, 280 grams, pretty much the exact same weight as this shoe. 36.30 there, slightly lower, a little bit closer to the ground. You do have one of those Vective plates in the mix there. Again, Nitro TPU with the plate there, a little lower to the ground in the Infinite 3, depending more on that rocker roll. Feels like a quicker, more agile shoe. You do not have the width up front in the toe box that you do have in the 300 there. I like the Infinite 3 a lot. It's a shame it's kind of going away, but they will have the Off-Trail Ultra as its pseudo replacement shoe. I still like the Infinite 3 as far as if you were looking for more of that firmer, dialed daily training feel with, again, that traditional North Face rocker ride. Last comparable North Face shoe here, of course, I've gotten questions about and will get questions about is the Enduris 4. 10.9 ounces, 308 grams, full ounce heavier than this shoe here at the same 38, 32 stack height, 6 mil drop. Platforms are almost identical. I have them measured within a millimeter or two between these two models. That shoe, again, a difference similar to the Infinite 3, Nitro TPU plus a plate in the mix. Feels firmer, but compared to the Infinite, of course, with the Enduris, you get that extra cushion, and that's why it's been a top pick for training and even racing for North Face pros. I myself have in fact recommended the Enduris 4 to many runners looking for both training and racing aspects in a trail shoe. I personally have never raced in that shoe, and I personally don't like to train in that shoe. It does lean into that rocker feel. It's very protective. That is an appealing aspect as far as keeping the feet happy in a longer race or training day. That's one of them that wants to land in the middle of the shoe and just kind of roll. I like a more neutral feel on the ground, especially when it comes to training. That's the key difference you get here with the 300 compared to the Enduris. More of that ground feel at the same stack height, less of that kind of structured roll to it. No plate here, more space in the toe box, especially the Enduris 4, quite wide, quite comfortable across the forefoot. Some have said it's a little bit tapered at the front of the toes, and that could vary. I have a feeling a lot of that depends on how runners size their shoes. If you're appropriately sized in the Enduris 4, having that full thumbs up front, shouldn't have any issue with the taper up front there, but it is wider here in the 300. Of course, mentioned again, not as much of the rocker here. So wider space up front, less rocker, and that gives you that more comfort fit with this 300 upper and toe box. Foothold is pretty good here. Again, if I were to go down a half size in the US 9.5, I definitely feel a lot more dialed. I'm sized here for comfort here, and pretty much anywhere I'd want to take this shoe in any kind of distance and duration, I'd be totally comfortable with this level of foothold here. It's enough, I would say, one of those shoes that feels manageable once you get into moderate or technical terrain. Perhaps not the most dialed fit, not the most secure wrapping, again, depending on sizing, but I don't think that's what this shoe is intended for either. Perfect example is what I'm doing out here today. Working my way back into running, kind of cruising around. Easy day out here. Perfect comfort. This is the foothold that you want. You don't want to be, overly strapped in on some of those easy days. Just kind of want to, again, as I said earlier, set it and forget it. And that's how it feels out here right now. Contour under the arch also has quite a neutral feel. A little bit of support, kind of rounded under the middle of the shoe. Another key difference with the other Vective shoes, a lot of them with the rocker setup, higher heel swoop, higher toe swoop up front. The rocker kind of pushing the middle of the shoe into the arch underneath your foot. Don't really have that here. Flatter feel on the ground, and also I would say not flat feel under the foot. Bit different, I would say actually noticeably different than some of those other North Face shoes I have in the past. Really liked that for foot security. Another shoe comes to mind, Sky 2, very kind of heavy feel, heavy pressure up into the bottom of the foot because the heel feels well seated in that. With the flexibility of that shoe, carbon fiber plate, of course, that is an upper fit, and especially the heel area, rear of the shoe, feels extremely dialed. You don't get the sense of the heel in this 300 V2 sitting super low or lower, in fact, than the raised arch in a lot of other North Face models. And that may be more appealing, I would say, to a lot of runners looking for that more kind of standard feel underfoot. Check out that spring 2026 video for some details on the outsole. 4 mil lugs here, Surface Control SC2, updated compound from the North Face. Same compound in the 500 V2. Should see some improvement over previous North Face outsoles. Final little close-up here, roundup between all of the North Face models within the realm of the 300 V2, of course. 500 V2 here, nitro TPU foam, definitely energetic here, more energy feel underfoot than the 300. You have a softer feel definitely with this EVA here. Again, quick flex, easy flexibility here, a lot up front by the toes here, decent amount of kind of torsion around the middle of the shoe, but it is more so in the 500 in comparison. In the 500, it's less of that looseness up front. You can notice it as I'm flexing it. It's really up front by the toes. You're landing very square and solid in the 500 V2, and then getting into that very upfront rocker, which I've talked about before in this model. A little bit different here with this shoe. You don't have as much of a toe sweep, probably not as evident here. There's just, again, there's that more stiffness in this shoe with that foam, with the additional couple millimeters of stack here. Feels a little bit more taut underfoot here, whereas this one is more loose, less of that very late toe rocker. It starts earlier here, and this just gives a lot of feel under the forefoot of the shoe. You can see this is another kind of test that I often do with shoes. How much does it contour around with that EVA in there? No plate, also no plate with the 500 V2, but there's just a little bit more to it, a little more protection here, and you're not going to get that pushing up under the forefoot in this shoe that you get with the 300. So more ground feel here, better feeling, very fun for those everyday miles. This is my first quote-unquote run back. I've done a couple of little jog sessions in my earlier videos. I was more or less doing like kind of little 30-second jogs, and I just wanted to feel if anything came up. A little injury update here. Stress reaction in my femur, haven't run for a month, back at it. So I did a couple 30-second type of run walks earlier. This is my first one where I was doing probably a couple minutes at a time on and off, and felt really good. This is the perfect shoe for it. I wanted that softness. Again, I was trying to reduce impact in the activities I was doing over the past month or so. So as I ramp back up into actual running and actual running impact, maybe a little bit of a softer feel underfoot to kind of reduce that impact. Again, I'm also avoiding some kind of sharper ups and downs as I make my way back into form. Generally speaking, though, 500, you're going to have more of that protection underfoot. A reason why I pointed this out as a potential Cocodona 250 shoe. I'm not sure. North Face doesn't have a big presence at Cocodona, but I did see Sally McRae at some point swapping into this shoe for at least some of her miles. I'm sure there were other runners out there in this shoe. Certainly just because of the max stack factor and also the comfortability in the toe box, which I talked about earlier. As far as stack, again, off the top of my head, I know these are both 38, 32, but you just have different feels underfoot with these shoes. You saw the flexing here. Less of that flex here. They're still decently good with these North Face shoes with these Vective plates, but on the run, this one, you feel that like rolling sensation, which makes it a smooth running and efficient shoe for those longer miles. Perhaps you don't want to have this looseness underfoot if you're looking at these for, say, potential ultra distance racing. You'll say, well, they're the same stack. What's the big difference? Plate is going to add some protection. That's one aspect. Also, the kind of structure that it gives to the shoe, as long as you're okay with that kind of rolling feel, you're used to it, it will keep that foot moving along without having to do as much work, your feet themselves having to do as much work in a kind of looser shoe, looser foam underfoot as this one. So different feel, different setup with this one. I talked about the toe box here, kind of hard. Depends on the depth and the angle of which I get these in these close-ups here, but I hope you can tell there's definitely more taper here in the Enduris 4 compared to both of these models. The Enduris 4 definitely more similar to this Infinite 3, which I'll talk about in a second. A little bit of that taper there, and then again with more of that rocker, pushes the toes together here. I have all of these shoes in the US 10 EU 44. Definitely, this is the shoe the most where I feel that splay in the toes. Also the 500 V2 to a degree, but with the kind of more structure to it, the more of that upfront roll, the foot doesn't really spread out on contact in the way that it does in the 300 V2. So even though this is quite an accommodating wide forefoot and front of the toe upper here, you don't quite have that feel of splay because the geometry of the upper is maintaining its shape a little bit more, maintaining its roll a little bit more, not giving your kind of toes that room to spread out. Here with the absorption of the shoe on ground strike, less of that front rocker, I could really feel my toes spreading out, which is a nice feel in that shoe if you like that kind of thing. If you're looking at the Enduris for more of that training shoe, not so much of that kind of racing option, or if you are looking at this as a racing option and perhaps wanted something with a little bit more feel with a similar kind of level of cushion, not necessarily protection, then you might want to look at this as a pairing, racing and training with the 300, because same stack, no plate here, softer foam, it is going to be less protective. So if you're going on very rocky terrain, the Vective plate here is certainly going to add an element of protection that you don't quite get with the 300 V2. But assuming you would be going on shorter distance training runs, perhaps wanting to, say, train up your feet a little bit more on those training days, get them ready for race day, then you might look to this 300. Last one I'll take a look at here, Infinite 3. Again, this shoe is going away, but toe boxes here, similar kind of shape, narrow. Again, in my US 10 EU44, I love the forefoot space of all of these North Face models, but some of these earlier models do tend to taper. The more Vective rocker designed ones do tend to taper at the front. That's why I do go up that half size, and I would recommend it in this shoe. If you're going true to size and you're perhaps less than a full thumb's width in the earlier North Face shoes, once you get into that roll, then you may feel the squeeze or the pinch at the front of the toe box. So again, advise half size up in the North Face shoes. Dream foam here, again, compared to this one, couple millimeter less. Talked about this on the run. This is more of like that quick, agile feel on the run. Plate can give a little bit of tip here and there, but if you're sensitive to it, you're aware that it's in the mix and you're used to running this shoe, it can feel quicker on the run. Certainly you're going to get more response with the Nitro TPU here and the plate here. Not carbon fiber, plasticky TP, I'm not sure what kind of plate this is, but plasticky plate here does give it a little bit of propulsion, keeps the shape of the midsole in line as you kind of roll into that rocker here, whereas this one, again, you're always like flattening out, having that kind of comfort feel, ground feel underfoot. So a little bit of North Face roundup here. I love having all of the North Face models in for test in comparison. Thank you, North Face. I have the Sky 2, of course, and also the Vective Pro 3, but those shoes are definitely less comparable to the 300 V2. That's why I didn't bring those into the mix here. The Off Trail Ultra will be coming maybe around late summer, September, UTMB time. And of course, want to take a look at that shoe compared to this one, and probably not the 300 V2. Again, thank you for tuning into Humble Running. Check out the website, www.humblerunning.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I've been a little bit lax on that. I thought I might perhaps do some more newsletter or article content as I was coming back, but I just had a lot of ideas. So in the absence of doing a lot of running miles, I actually had less to kind of write about in the newsletter, but I should catch up on that. So sign up for that in advance so you will get my next Humble Running newsletter. Thank you to the North Face again for having me have all these shoes in for test and comparison. I think these kind of roundups are helpful. I hope they're helpful for you to kind of get a feel for North Face shoes, and certainly going forward as the new ones come out, it's good for me to kind of know what's what. And if you like one or the other of these shoes, interested in the 300 and 500, especially as they're newer models, let me know down in the comments. I did not run in V1 or V2 of either of these shoes, so unfortunately I cannot compare to those. I know a lot of runners like them, so if you had those and do have these, I think other runners and followers would be interested to know down in the comments, what are your thoughts on comparisons of previous 300s and 500s to these new models. I really like them both. I'm always a big proponent of forefoot space and having especially that kind of setup in a daily training shoe. So I think this one is going to be working very well for a lot of runners and very versatile for a lot of runners. Perhaps not in the racing realm, perhaps not in the super lightweight and agile kind of fast technical running realm, certainly not, but a lot of space in the middle between those two areas is where this 300 V2 is going to hit well. So thank you again for tuning in. Like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. I will see you next time. More running out on the trails, more than 1 minute segments, let's say that.